Good afternoon and welcome to the special meeting of Community Development Block Grant Advisory Committee, also known as CDBG, held today, October 27, 2025, in the City Council chambers. Let's have a roll call, please.
Certainly. Committee members Avedisian,
Present.
Ani,
Here.
Quinones Gabrielian is absent, Vice Chair Manukian is absent, and Chair Garibian.
Here. What's next, please?
The agenda for the October 27, 2025 special meeting of the CDBG Advisory Committee was posted on or before Friday, October 24, 2025 on the bulletin board outside City Hall. Item 2 is oral communications. We don't have any cards or callers. Item 3, action items. At A, preliminary proposed fiscal year 2026-2027 CDBG funding allocation plan by funding category. And at 1 is a motion to approve the preliminary proposed fiscal year 2026-2027 CDBG funding allocation plan by funding category.
Chair Garibian, members of the advisory committee, we have a short presentation for you regarding the preliminary proposed funding allocation plan for the upcoming year. Our recommendation is that you approve the preliminary proposed plan for 26-27 by funding category. Before we get to that, I wanted to talk about news coming out of Washington. At this time, the federal government is shut down. However, during the Congressional Appropriations Committee discussions, this was done prior to the shutdown, the House of Representatives had asked that the appropriations levels for CDBG remain the same as the current year, which is $3.3 billion. And once it went into the Senate, the appropriation levels were discussed, and they had recommended reducing it from 3.3 down to 3 billion for CDBG. At this time, we're going to continue to stay with our current funding estimate for 26-27, which is going to be $1.7 million. When they do come back, they will continue to have discussions, and we will bring that back to the committee once that final number is provided to us. So due to the government shutdown, we may not be able to present that final budget to you when we meet in February. So we'll again most likely provide you with a contingency plan for funding so we can finalize those recommendations. Any questions on this before I move on? Okay. So as stated, we are estimating an annual allocation of $1.7 million. We do not have any undesignated balance or any return funds at this time. And the total should be anywhere between 1.7, and depending on how much we do get, it's usually about 30,000 to 50,000, either more or less. And then when you break down the funding allocation plan, it's broken down into three parts. The first part is program administration, which is for staffing and review of proposals and all the work that goes into the administration, which is $340,000 that will be set aside. And then for public social services, there's a 15% cap on that, and that should be $255,000. And then lastly, 65%, which is capital improvement projects, that's $1.1 million. So at this time, we are not recommending any city CIP projects, and we were thinking to move ahead and allocate $1.1 million to our community agencies. However, in February or March, when we come back, if there is undesignated funds or if there are canceled funds, we will most likely request funding for city CIP projects that are in the pipeline. So at this time, that 1.7 million is being recommended to be allocated as you see here. Any questions on that? Okay. That concludes my presentation, short and sweet, I promised. If there's any questions overall, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Thank you, Maggie. First, it's a great news so far. We're starting off the year great. Any questions?
More so like, do we have, or do you think we would have any projects, CIP projects, city projects that we may need the funding coming up?
Chair Garibian, members of the advisory committee, committee member Avidician, we are anticipating possibly using funds for a master plan, and if Mr. Bulanikan would like to elaborate a little bit more on that, or? Okay.
Thank you. Quick question. At this moment, we don't need any CDBG funds. If any, we are probably going to need for master planning of the new property that we purchased, the Joann's Fabrics property on the corner of Central and Chevy Chase. But we are applying for grant funding through Measure A and through State of California for the planning component of the project. So that's why we decided to recommend to allocate the $1,100,000 to community projects for next fiscal year.
Thank you.
We're gonna speed this up to allocate it as fast as possible.
Yeah, my question, honestly, the reasoning I'm asking, I'm sure a lot of our organizations, nonprofits are watching and they're following up. And based on that, if they know that there may be some sort of some planning coming back down that reduces the funding availability, so they will probably not apply, or they'll redo their plans, or make it a smaller projects or whatnot. That's why I'm asking, so they know at least where we are, and they may have the possibility of getting the full project approvals, so-called. Thank you.
Yeah, I have an inquiry with regards to, you mentioned the government shutdown and all that. Do we anticipate any changes in public services? Because I think right now, at this very moment, a lot of fundings available for public supposedly is being shut down. So do we anticipate any changes? I know it's limited to 15%, but in the past, have we done anything similar?
Chair Garibian, members of the advisory committee, committee member Ani, that's a great question. So for public social services at this time, we are fully funded in this program year. We have not yet received our invoices because we are a little held back due to all of this back and forth with the federal government. So for 25-26, we are fully funded and our agencies are doing business as usual. It'll be in 26-27 when we see what the actual funding amount will be, and then that way we move forward with how we make recommendations here. So at this time, there is no issues. Now, if you're asking about other programs that are not CDBG funded, they are experiencing. So the number one program that, at least with the other hat that we wear here in this program, is the senior services section. And we received word from our LA County counterparts that the SNAP benefits will not be available, most likely not available in November. And that's usually the first week of November. So We have met with our food bank. Our food bank has reached out to us, given us a list of agencies to contact for food pantry assistance, which Catholic Charities, Salvation Army, which are funded by CDBG, are food banks that you could go to. And so we are sharing that information with our seniors at this time.
Okay, what's next?
Next would be making a motion to either approve or not approve.
Okay,
So move to approve.
read it. You want to read? Shall we read it or just?
No, that's
No, we
fine.
don't. Okay. Any seconds?
I second.
Thank you. Committee members Avedisian,
Yes?
Ani,
Yes.
Quinones Gabrielian is absent, Vice Chair Menuchyan is absent, Chair Caribbean.
Yes.
Thank you. Item 3B, fiscal year 2026-2027 CDBG program priorities. At one is a motion to approve the fiscal year 2026-2027 CDBG program priorities.
Chair, Garibian, members of the advisory committee, again, we have a very short presentation for you regarding our 26-27 program priorities. We are recommending the approval of the program priorities for 26-27. These will be part of the request for proposal and will help to guide agencies and if and when they decide to submit a proposal for the 26-27 fiscal year. So the development of program priorities actually started last year because we developed our consolidated plan. Our consolidated plan was worked on last year quite intensively. It was the development of a 5-year plan to determine program priorities, and it required extensive outreach, analysis, and preparation. So this is year 1 of that consolidated plan. So in 26-27, multiple efforts and platforms were considered again to gather community input and confirm program priorities for this year. So there's a methodology to this. We start with community meetings, email, and telephone options to get community input. And on October 1st, we held a community meeting. Unfortunately, we had no one attend that meeting. This is the first time ever that no one attended our community meeting, where last year we had 120 people attend. We also had an email and telephone comment period option. So we gave residents a 1-week period from September 29th through October 3rd to submit their input as residents. And we received 6 email submissions. So we have included that in the exhibit. And then outreach to notify the public about these meetings, city department newsletters, social media. We informed our nonprofits because our nonprofits come every September to our CDBG open house meeting. We let them know how important it is for their clients to give their input if it's really important to them, so we know what the priorities are in the upcoming year. And then, of course, we reach out to our schools, GUSD and Glendale Community College, and our hospitals. Now, another part of the methodology is also data analysis. And unfortunately, in data analysis, we also had a little bit of a setback. We conduct an analysis each year through American Community Survey, which is the US Census. So we use the 2023 analysis estimates because 2024 is unavailable. So if you go to the US Census website, due to the government shutdown, we can't get the new data for 2024. So we continue to use the numbers we had from last year. We did update the list of key demographic indicators that were available to us. And just as a few examples, the city of Glendale's population in 2024 increased by about 773 persons to 187,823. That is big for us because population is part of the formula on how we get funding through CDBG. More population, more funding. Now, the second part of that is the poverty levels. At this time, again, these are 2023 estimates, not 2024. There's 13.4% of Glendale families who are below the poverty line in Glendale. And if you compare that to LA County, that's 13.9%. So we, again, formula funding, these numbers are used to crunch out our final allocation for 26, 27, depending on these numbers. 18% of Glendale's population are children under 18. 18.4% of Glendale's population are age 65 and older, which is a much higher percentage than LA County. And then the median rent in Glendale is $2,002 compared to $1,805 for LA County. Again, these are 2023 statistics and the American Community Survey. So we use these as part of the data analysis to kind of come up with our program priorities. So what we did was we are proposing that the program priorities remain the same as they were last year. They were very in-depth and intensive outreach that was done from last year. So these priorities are in alphabetical order. They are not ranked in any way. They are under topics such as public facilities, public social services, public and neighborhood improvements, housing, special needs housing, and homeless services. Again, as a reminder, we also have aside from the CDBG program, we have the Emergency Solutions Grant Program and the Home Partnership Program, which also gets federal funds. Therefore, these priorities are grouped together. So when you see housing and homeless services, that's also part of the two other programs that receive funding. Any questions on these priorities?
Probably have a question with regards to how do we prioritize them in terms of percentage needs, probably? Is that how we categorize them?
Great question. Chair Grabian and members of the advisory committee, last year we had a community needs survey that we did, and we had over 787 respondents. So we took all that information, and part of that was to include priorities in there, and they rank them. The residents surveyed them and ranked them according to what they felt was important. So we had presented that to the committee last year in ranked order. The committee has chosen, in years past and last year, to just leave them as alphabetical order because this plan will be available for 5 years. And we wanted to leave it fluid. So there are going to be years where one priority is more important than the other. So if we leave it just alphabetical order, it's easier for the agencies to apply and still be considered for funding. And then the determinations, program priority determinations so again, 25 to 30 consolidated plan kind of sets the tone for the next 5 years. And then we are thinking that 26, 27 is hopefully as consistent with our con plan last year as it is this year, with the limited information and the limited attendance this year due to circumstances basically out of our control.
We don't know what the circumstances were.
I don't know what the circumstances were, but there was a Dodger game that night.
Okay. Okay. All right, let's go on.
Maybe that's something that we should consider next time around. I mean, of course, we plan way ahead of time before the games are announced or things like that are announced. So
I really don't think that's
I don't know. Yeah, I don't think that's actually the.
Sorry, man, get in trouble. Continue.
That concludes my presentation.
Good job. Actually, just for viewers and our new member, as you explained, and because this year we have a lot more requests for specific reasoning of funding, we do want to make sure as year to year things could change. So we don't want to keep going and restudying which one is prioritized that particular year. So we keep it alphabetical, and as it flows in, as is needed, we'll do it that way instead of categorize it in a specific way.
The reason I mentioned that is just I noticed the survey was 2023 and time has changed, and there's so many things that, you know, in particular with technology, things are changing. So yeah, that was the point of the question, is how we prioritize moving forward. But thank you.
Okay, what's next, Iris?
That it would be the motion for this item.
I make the motion. to approve the priority plan.
I second.
Thank you. Committee members Avedisian,
Yes?
Ani,
Yes.
Quinones Gabrielian is absent, Vice Chair Menuchyan is absent, Chair Garibian.
Yes.
Thank you. Item 3C, fiscal year 2026-2027 CDBG Public Social Services Request for Proposal, RFP packet. At 1 is a motion to approve the fiscal year 2026-2027 CDBG Public Social Services Request for Proposal, RFP packet.
Chair Garibian, members of the advisory committee, we have yet another PowerPoint presentation for you. We will be going through this carefully because we have our new committee member and we really want to explain to the public our public social services request for proposal packets and the input that was received last month. So for 2026, 2027, we're estimating $255,000 in social services funding. And our program priorities will be uploaded into Zoom grants as Exhibit G after the advisory committee makes the recommendations and to City Council for approval, as you had done earlier. And a little background on Zoom grants. Zoom grants will be used yet again. This is 26-27, and this will be the third year of utilizing Zoom grants for the online proposal submission system. Zoom grants has extensive knowledge working with the CDBG entitlements, federal, state, local agencies, and foundations. And Zoom grants will be made available to community agencies after they attend a mandatory in-person technical support meeting, which will be held in December. And staff will continue to train community agencies as well as our community CDBG advisory committee members this year again. And then we are contracted with Zoom grants into October of 2026. We have gone through 2 grant cycles so far. We've been evaluating the system. The system seems to be working well, both for CDBG staff and also for our other sections in our department. The packet. So the packet will include instructions and application, which is provided in here in your binders as Exhibit 1. After the community agencies will be eligible to apply for the RFP after the mandatory meeting, like we had mentioned on December 8th. And then, so in September of 2025, when we had our CDBG advisory committee meeting, the committee was discussing the public social services goals and outcomes, if you will recall. And the questions came up about alternative goals and outcomes, and in the cases when an agency is not fully funded. And what would be the amount of their original request, and how would they meet goals and outcomes with the minimum funding? So to better understand the agency accomplishments, if not fully funded, staff had included in this packet additional questions in 26-27's RFP. And then I'll go through those 2 updates with you. So application question number 3 was actually updated. So based on the funding amount requested, please specify the total number of unduplicated persons expected to be served by the program annually. So question number 3 is going to be based on what they want. So if they want $50,000, they're going to have to let us know how many persons will be, how many persons they can serve. Now, application question number 28 was recently added. Based on your answer to question number 27, which is regarding minimum CDBG funding amount agency can accept and still operate the program successfully, please indicate the number of unduplicated persons which can be served by the program annually with the minimum amount you can accept. So you'll get to see under question 3 what they want if they're fully funded, and based on what their minimum they can accept, how many people they can serve with that minimum. So at least the committee can see those 2 numbers and the goals and outcomes for that. Updated and additional questions will allow us to evaluate the number of unduplicated persons that will be served through the program based on the amount of funding requested. requested. And this was something that came up last meeting, and I hope that will help you to make those recommendations in February and in March, hopefully. Any questions on this?
Yeah, that's what I was
Sure.
gonna say before we go to the next. I know Mr. Avdisian was here last year, and you wanted. Are you good with this based on what we discussed last year? Any questions?
Yes.
No.
I think it's going to actually be great. It's helpful to us, but I think it will also help the organizations, the agencies to understand better, just not to throwing numbers and making sure that numbers that's going to actually work one way or another, or not apply if it's really a minimum that's not going to work. So let's not just apply. 'Cause it's costly when they want to prepare the package and apply.
Agreed. And it gives clarity. I appreciate the additional changes.
I have a question that if, like number 3, based on funding amount, please specify a total number of unduplicated person expected to serve. We know most of the agencies, they do use portion of this funding for the duplicated because the program goes on and the clienteles are on. So do they have to break down? For example, they're asking for 50,000, have to break it down that 25,000 is to maintain and the 25 for the new, because how would they know what the new would be? I don't want to put them in a spot that they'll have a difficulty explaining this. For example, some programs, as you know, it is duplicated because they're always there, the same type of the clients, whether the homelessness or any of those. So I don't know if this is clear enough that won't confuse them or have confusing numbers to submit to us.
Chair Garibian, question number 3 has always technically been there. So they're aware that if they were to receive, for instance, this is an example, $50,000, and with $50,000, they're going to serve 100 people. What we want to know is, what if they were to receive $10,000? How many people would they be able to serve then? I think that's what we want to see, and then question that when they come in, and maybe they can explain how they'll do that.
So what a duplicator, because we're mentioning the unduplicated person.
We only look at unduplicated because what we do is we check their rosters every quarter. That's what staff does. And we're looking at unduplicated numbers, not duplicated, because we know that most of them, like you said, they come in over and over again for services. But what we want to see is the total number that they're serving unduplicated.
Okay, we're good. Let's go on. Thank you.
And then we wanted to continue to provide this, again, because we have a new committee member, and we wanted to share the existing policies that are included in the RFP. And the City Council had previously approved these policy recommendations that were made by this committee back in 2023. The 2 policies that are already part of this RFP are policy number 1. We should be looking at these proposals and disqualifying incomplete community agency proposals where an agency fails to properly respond and correct the weakness in their application, which were identified on the strengths and weaknesses analysis. We've had this back and forth sometimes during the interview process where they didn't really answer the questions. So we want to be able to prepare the strengths and weaknesses analysis as staff, present it to the committee so you could see it in its final form. Policy number 5, agencies must attend the mandatory CDBG technical support meeting as a requirement of submitting a request for proposal. Again, we want them to be aware of what the policies are, what the dates and the timelines and the deadlines are, and it's important for them to be in the loop and for staff to assist them with submitting a good, solid proposal. That concludes my presentation for public social services.
Any other questions?
No questions. Thank you.
Just quickly on Zoom grants part, I'm going to go back to that. We have 2 more years left, total of 3 years. We started last year.
Chair Garibian, we have until October of 2026.
26, okay.
Our contract is until 2026, but I believe we can renew that. I think there's an extension in that contract that can be renewed for an additional.
Beside us, as far as staff is concerned, how much of time and money has saved you guys to use this? Or, I mean, I know it's more professional to do it this way. I like it, but does it save you guys time and money or no?
I can speak to time. For time management, I believe that even for the community agencies, we used to ask them to make 9 copies of those proposals, and those 9 copies included financial statements that were about this thick. I think the management of that time and prepping those packets and providing them to you as committee members, and you going through all that paperwork, the time intensiveness of that alone has saved both staff and I believe the committee a lot of time.
I don't have to carry those heavy
Yes,
boxes in.
that's true. That's true. So that's a really good part of Zoom grants that we all appreciate. Now, money-wise, because it is managed, I believe, by our IT department, Ms. Alexanian, if you have a little background on that.
Sure. The funding-wise, our IT department pays for the cost of Zoom grants, and to be honest, I don't think we've put a dollar value on, how much savings we've had versus the cost. Obviously, the cost of Zoom grants, when you look at it, is probably more than the cost in saving from printing, but I think it's the efficiency that outweighs the cost, and also not having to store the physical hard copy files because it is in Zoom grants and is available for audit purposes and such. So I don't think we've done the actual math on dollar savings, but the cost of Zoom grants obviously outweighs the cost of printing, but it definitely does not outweigh the cost of efficiency and staff time and managing that. So it's not to say that we have reduced staffing, because obviously the cost of administering the programs and the projects still, the staffing is necessary. It just saves us time in preparing those packets to get it out to you. So it's definitely, from staff's perspective, it has worked out better. We're, I think, still working on the reporting aspect of it, working with Zoom grants and figuring out a way to be able to do the reporting within Zoom grants. But Ms. Kavarian could speak to the agencies and how much less time it probably takes them in preparing the proposals and not having to rush here, before 5 p.m. to turn them in. Have we heard any feedback from the agencies on how Zoom grants is working out for them?
Yes, we actually have Ms. Alexanian. Chair Garibian, members of the advisory committee, Zoom grants, our deadlines are usually in winter time. Probably the worst time of the year to submit an application, Christmas time, New Year's, that we pushed it back 1 week. So we were able to push it back 1 week because of the efficiency. So that 1 week that people should be most likely are on holiday, they're not rushing to our offices to submit huge boxes of paper to us. That's the one thing that they appreciate more than anything, having that extra time, being able to work from their office or home to complete those proposals. That's their number one. I know, at least for them, it's easy to kind of log on, and then if they have a question during a proposal, we kind of go on a Teams and we kind of work it through, whatever the kink might be, we work that through. Whereas prior to that, when they were doing their proposal, I couldn't see what they were doing. We'd have to figure out a different way to understand how to submit something. So the submission, the preparation, everything is much more efficient than it used to be. And the time frame of having to submit, we pushed back because it's so much easier for them and it's easier for us to get things done.
So last 12 months, obviously, the technology, as you guys been hearing, skyrocketed with the AI. Is it other new apps or programs, since Renew is coming up, we can change it or look for different software or different program that it would be
Chair
more
Garibian,
accurate?
that's a really good question. That's why we're only evaluating. We're trying to do a 3-year cycle to evaluate if this is the program for us. We do attend many National Community Development Association meetings, and at those meetings, there's always new programs that are out there, and we always try to go to each table and figure out what our counterparts are using, what other municipalities are using, what works for them. At this time, most municipalities are using Zoom grants specific to CDBG. Most of the Zoom grant staff are prior municipality employees. So they really understand the inner workings of what we do, like our business. They truly understand it. And it always helps to work with someone in an IT setting who is the tech person, but that tech person actually understands what you do on the program end or the program side. And that has been kind of what we've really appreciated with Zoom grants. Are we looking? We're always looking, because that's literally why we wanted to do a 3-year contract, just to see if this works for us or not. Because if it doesn't, there is always going to be something else out there that'll be easier for ourselves and our agencies, and of course the committee, because you also are reviewing it.
Yeah, Mr. Chair read my mind. I was just getting ready to ask exactly this question, because since the contract is being over, I'm sure outside of the financial cost of it, what's the more feasible or any newer systems that might be easier, much more easier. This is not bad. I think it's not the easiest program, in my opinion, but it works. First year, yes, we had a little bit struggle to understand it and work behind the scenes and stuff, but overall, I think it's pretty good program. Yes, I appreciate not carrying boxes, although I do still print some pages, but not the 400 or 500 pages as we used to carry on. So thank you. Appreciate it.
I have additional remarks on that as well. We hear your feedback from the administrators. How about the agencies? Have we come across with challenges from their end with the tool that we're using currently? And if so, have we addressed that? In what manner?
Great question, Committee Member Ani. At this time, we haven't received any challenges or any issues with Zoom grants. As a matter of fact, we had one agency that had already used Zoom grants, and they appreciated the fact that they didn't have to learn a new system, and that would be the Housing Rights Center. Housing Rights Center has over 20 municipalities it serves throughout LA County, and our other counterparts have been using Zoom grants for years. So they had already had an account when we had introduced it to our nonprofits here in Glendale. So they really appreciated that. So far we've had positive feedback rather than challenges at this time.
Thank you.
We would appreciate a motion on this item.
I make the motion.
I'll make the motion. Patch,
You made the motion.
approve it.
Ani
Made a
made the
motion.
Oh, she made the motion. Oh, sorry. I'll second it.
Thank you.
I guess I'm having hearing problems.
Committee members Avedisian,
Yes.
Ani,
Yes.
Yanis Gabrielian is absent, Vice Chair Manukian is absent, Chair Garibian.
Yes. What's next?
Next is item 3D, fiscal year 2026-2027 CDBG capital improvement project request for proposal RFP packet. At 1 is the motion to approve the fiscal year 2026-2027 CDBG capital improvement project request for proposal RFP packet.
Chair Garibian, members of the advisory committee, we had presented you with the public social services packet. Now we will be moving on to our capital improvement project packet. Again, as we had stated earlier, we are proposing $1,105,000 be estimated in funding to community agencies for this RFP proposal packet for 26-27. Again, the program priorities will be updated into Zoom grants as Exhibit D once we take your recommendations to the City Council in November for approval. We wanted to include those 5 policies that were adopted in 2023, again, to familiarize our new committee member with those policies. Now, also included in the packet is the HUD, Build America, Buy America, the BABA Act information, and then also the NEPA review policy. This was adopted last year in April of 2024 regarding radon testing for buildings. I'm not going to get too much into this. This is basically the same exact slide in Public Social Services regarding Zoom grants and the effectiveness of it. The RFP packet for CIP includes instructions and applications. Again, it's provided to you in Exhibit 1 of this report. Community agencies will, again, be eligible to apply after the mandatory technical support meeting, which will be held on December 8. Now, I did want to clarify that what we do is we break it up into two parts. So on December 8th, we usually have a 10 a.m. with our public social services agencies first, and those agencies that want to either stay on and will be applying for capital will be held probably around 11 to 11:30. So what we do is we break it up into two parts. That way, agencies that are only doing capital can show up a little later and don't have to sit through two meetings. Now, updates to the capital improvement RFP. There are really no new updates, but I did want to review the 5 policy recommendations for our committee members, because this is something you'll be looking at and using as you evaluate these proposals. And of course, the NEPA review regarding radon, which staff will handle, and we talk to our agencies about, so they'll be prepared to include that in the proposal as well. So I'll go through the 5 policies that are existing, and the reasoning behind many of these policies is for our CDBG timeliness factor. Each year we present this to you, and the CDBG program has a HUD rule. It's a requirement. We have to have less than 1.5 times our entitlement amount in our line of credit, and if we don't, we get dinged, and there's a possibility that they'll take money away from us. So back in 2023, the CDBG Advisory Committee had decided to put these policies into place to move money along faster and to be timely. So policy number 1, again, we want to disqualify any incomplete community agency proposals where an agency fails to properly respond and to correct their weaknesses in their application for strengths and weaknesses analysis. This is really important for capital improvement because a lot of questions arise from that, and you will see during the interviews, that's when the committee asks the most questions. Policy number 2, agencies cannot be funded for more than 2 capital improvement projects at one time, can only apply for 1 project at a time in a given program year, and can only submit a proposal for a second capital improvement project if their first funded project is already in construction and will be completed within a year of the application date. So that's a lot of words, but we are hoping that agencies don't kind of hold on to money and just continually come back. We want them to finish their first project before they apply for another project, and this will help move the money along. Policy number 3, proposals must include 1 general contractor estimate that reflects prevailing wage rates, but a minimum of 2 general contractor estimates are strongly recommended. This was something that the committee had a nice discussion, a healthy discussion on. They are required to provide one general contractor bid estimate because it's important for the committee to see what the cost of that project will be. 2 would be better, of course, because that way you could kind of gauge what the cost is. But the problem with that is any general contractor that does this is now ineligible to actually do the project if this agency is funded. So we realize that that's hard because there's not a lot of general contractors out there that do these projects. That's why the committee decided to reduce that to 1 general contractor estimate. Policy number 4, a commitment to timely completion of CIP projects reflected in the necessary completion of program planning and design phases. So the proposal really should reflect project readiness and completion or near completion of pre-construction activities. And again, this is something that we hope that the committee will ask those questions with the proposals that'll come in the agencies. How far along are they in design and pre-construction? This is a really important part of moving money along because again, if you're going to sit on projects that don't have plans or permits or all that, you're going to be waiting around for a very long time. And then lastly, policy number 5, the mandatory meeting. Again, that mandatory meeting is important because what that mandatory meeting does is it explains the other 4 policies to the agency. So everyone's in the loop, everyone knows what the policies and rules are, and everybody puts in a really good, solid proposal. Any questions on these policies?
I think I know the answer, but I would ask again, just maybe for public, and maybe our colleague may have the same question or thought. On the policy number 3, and I know we brought it up and we asked for that, having the contractors estimate. Now, I'm thinking on the back end, what is the problem, or what may be the problem if the contractor that is actually giving the agency the estimate to prepare the proposal, coming back and bidding on the project? Is it just more advanced intelligence in the project in a way?
Chair Garibian, members of the advisory committee, that is correct. They would have an unfair advantage over the other contractors because they're going to know what the project entails and the ins and outs, because they're going to be most likely coming and doing a walkthrough and, taking measurements and whatnot. So they're going to know a little bit more and probably have a little bit healthier relationship with that agency. Therefore, HUD requires us not to allow them to bid on that project due to the unfair advantage, unfortunately. But what we do, there's a way around it. A lot of our contractors have worked with our agencies before, and what we do is we kind of let them know that there's this many agencies applying, and some will help out one agency, others will help out the other, and then they can kind of do a swap if agencies get funded.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you. I have a question with regards to, you mentioned NEPA earlier, and for, as a new member to this committee, and also for the benefit of the community. I'd like to see what sustainable project development entails for our CIP projects, right? And is there a compliance summary that we can use and look at, and what does requirement, the detailed that trigger the requirements and in the guidance on how to be effective in this, decision making, and if this is the right thing to do?
That's an excellent question. One of the exhibits in the RFP, and we will be providing that to the committee members as well as the agencies, is a CIP checklist. So that checklist is going to give both the committee and the agency kind of an idea of where they are in this project. And I don't have the project checklist offhand. We could probably pull it up. But basically, it's a checklist of about 10 items. And if they've completed, for instance, have they already gone through planning? Do they have their specifications? Do they know, we can go on and on. So you're going to base it off of their checklist versus someone else's checklist. And it's really not, it's very difficult. It's a difficult decision during that time because there's usually 2 to 3 agencies that apply. But it is good to ask them questions about that checklist to see where they are and when do they plan to get to the next levels. Most of the time, they're very honest and they will tell you, we're still waiting on funding. When they're still waiting on funding, that's going to be down the line. So that's the best tool most likely for the committee to use, is that checklist to see where they stand in this particular project that they're proposing.
I'm guessing it's pretty late for this meeting, but also if we could remind publicly on the qualifications. Who gets to apply for this? What is the qualifications they need to have, whether geographically or in other way? And that'll be also a good reminder for everyone.
That's actually a very good question, Chair Garibian. One of the pre-qualifiers in the RFP is they have to say yes to the 6 questions in the pre-qualifications. If they don't meet any of those, they don't qualify automatically. And that's something that we go through with them during that mandatory meeting is the pre-qualifiers, because we don't want to waste their time. That's the first thing we do. These are the pre-qualifications. Are you a nonprofit? Do you serve in this area? Do you serve low to moderate income? And we also did this at our CDBG open house meeting. We explained it to them very carefully because that's the most important thing. We don't want to waste anyone's time if they don't qualify for these particular funds and the criteria that comes with these funds.
And obviously, these are HUD requirements.
Correct, they're HUD
We don't have
requirements.
any overlays or anything like that.
We do
Strictly,
not.
We follow HUD.
The national objective for HUD, for CDBG, is low to moderate income, individuals, households.
And this is based on the report earlier we went over of the numbers, the percentage, and all that stuff.
Correct, that is correct.
Okay, any other questions? All right, thank you.
This concludes my presentation.
I'm
Have a
thinking
motion?
you're expecting for a motion. Yes, I'll make the motion
I'll
to approve
second.
it.
Great, thank you. Committee members Avedisian,
Yes,
Ani,
Yes.
Nunes Gabrielian is absent, Vice Chair Menuchyan is absent, Chair Garibian.
Yes.
Thank you. Next is item 4, committee staff comments.
Any comments?
no comments?
Comments? We'll save it for the next meeting, I guess.
28.
I attended the open house online, and I think I would just want to commend you guys for a job well done. I think it was thorough presentation, and it has all the informations in there. I'm just surprised that no one attended on the in-person, the committee meeting or something. Probably have to do something to announce it. Yeah, but thank you.
Army?
Oh, no, I'm good. Yeah, unfortunately, the community involvement, I mean, I know years ago we talked about this multiple times, then trying to figure out a good way of approaching the public, the community, the people that actually needs these funds or uses or just general, and getting comments. And we always had that issue of people not being so either very busy or not interested. I don't know. I think the staff is still, we don't know overall what is the reason that people just don't participate. Whatever the reason is. Last year, I know we did, you had 160 some odd. We gave out food. You know, that was something, but then again, we may not be able to do such a thing every year or every single program or every single meeting. But I don't know what's the magic way of getting in touch or pooling, asking people to participate. And that's where the problem stands. But anyways, we try, and we would love to hear from everyone to show up and attend. Thank you for everything you guys do, and keep us on track, first of all. Thank you.
So, yeah, thank you, staff, for your job and presentation. We appreciate it. Obviously, most of the agencies that we work with, they're the repeat ones. The new ones, we're not getting much. There was a time period we got some. There was a flow. If I remember, it was at the time Councilmember Agajanian who pushed for it. And I don't know, was it the mailers we sent out or something like that to attract them? And we did get a flood of those. I don't know what it was. Can we repeat that, whatever it was?
Chair Garibian, members of the advisory committee, former council member Agajanian had asked to do a CDBG open house, and we've been doing that every year since then. And that actually has helped. We've gotten many new agencies learning about CDBG and how it works.
But how do we notify them again? Social media?
We actually have a
mailers?
list. We have a nonprofit list, and we've recently updated it this past month. And so what we do is we send out informational flyers to them to invite them to the meeting.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate everything. Do you have any questions? No, we're good. All right. Thank you so much. Are we adjourned? All right. We're adjourned at 2:31. Thank you.